remarks about the competence and conduct of prosecutors in the matter. Now, members of the EFF and the MK called on Batoyi to resign because they say under her leadership, the NPA is declining and the fight against gender-based violence has been dealt a blow. Meanwhile, the MPA has indicated that it won't appeal, or rather, it would appeal the ruling. Zalena Marrington reports.
It was a tough day at the office for Shamila Batoyi. The NPA got roasted for the acquittal of Omatoso from rape, human trafficking and racketeering charges. Several MPs, which include Glenis Breitenbach from the DA, Steve Swart from the ACDP and Rebecca Mutlala from the EFF, were scathing in their criticism.
This matter it appears on the face of it, with the information that's available at the moment, that the matter was handled poorly from the outset. I fail to understand why that is when all the signs for a disaster were there from the beginning.
Maybe one of the biggest issues to me is the impact that this judgment has on underreporting because of lack of confidence in the criminal justice system.
As the economic freedom fighters, based on our thorough observation on this case, the EFF is extremely concerned about the manner in which this trial was handled by both the judiciary and the National Prosecuting Authority. We believe both institutions failed the victims of gender-based violence, more especially this one in Omatoso case. Chairperson, under Advocate Shamila Batoyi leadership, the NPA has repeatedly failed to demonstrate competence and integrity in handling high-profile prosecution, the Sindiso Magaka matter, the Senziwa Meiwa matter, and many more.
The chairperson of the committee, Kolangola, also took a swipe.
There is no doubt that at this particular point, we all agree that we failed those victims.
Members of the EFF and MK called for Batoyi's resignation. MK MP and Chief Whip Mzwanele Manyi.
That if by end of this meeting, that Advocate Batoyi does not voluntarily submit her resignation, we want to confirm in this meeting that as we close this meeting today, we would have approached the appointing authorities to start the process to remove Advocate Batoyi. I think enough is enough.
But Batoyi told MPs she had no such plans.
I took office at the end of state capture and we had to turn around a captured institution. We have done incredibly good work. We have done incredibly good work in turning around the NPA, which is now a professional, well-run, reasonably well-capacitated prosecuting authority. At this point in time, I'm incredibly proud of the work that the NPA has done. I have no intention of stepping down.
All right, that was a report from Zalene Marrington speaking there about the issue of televangelist Timothy Omatoso and the two accused. I think that case is still a long way to go. You're listening to Africa World Hour with myself, Innocent Simosa, in for Tsepiso. It has just gone 21:28 Central African Time. This is Channel Africa.
Africa in Song with Chanduko Ligege.
So the artist that I just played now went by the name A.B. Crystal. So A standing for Alfred, B for Benjamin. What's your take on people having two names? Is it because maybe you can't decide on a name?
I've heard people saying that they are named because of whatever that was happening around.
These are also seasonal. I'm sure now a baby born in the Eastern Cape is called Noma Tarif.
You see now? Or it was a born baby when it was, what do you call these things we used to pay for men driving?
Noma Iton.
Noma Iton, listen.
Well, Noma Confident is leaving.
Africa in Song with Chanduko Ligege.
algo em mente? Você é apaixonado pelas questões que importam? Tem uma voz que merece ser ouvida? Nós temos a plataforma perfeita para você. Ligue ou envie uma mensagem no WhatsApp +27 64 801 4724 e vamos chamá-lo de volta. E você pode fazer parte da conversa. Não é só conversa, é a sua oportunidade de expor os seus pontos de vista, partilhar as suas opiniões e envolver-se com uma comunidade que valoriza a sua perspectiva. Siga-nos nas redes sociais, visite o nosso website em www.canalafrica.co.za e prepare-se para partilhar as suas opiniões no Canal África. Canal África, a perspectiva africana.
Get the news, music, and lifestyle of Africa on Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Africa's Travel Indaba wrapped up yesterday in Durban, South Africa, bringing to a close one of the continent's most prominent tourism trade show. The annual event is a platform where local businesses, big and small, connect with international buyers and markets. In this report, Channel Africa's Lebohang Mabange unpacks some of the exhibitors' participation and how they are using the event to position their provinces as must-visit destinations. Take a listen.
As the dust settles on this year's Africa's Travel Indaba, local exhibitors are reflecting on the value of being present at Africa's biggest tourism marketplace. From small villages to luxury lodges, South African tourism stakeholders came out in full force, eager to network, showcase and strike new deals. Thobela Kholoma, founder of Traveloma Tours and Safaris in the Eastern Cape province, says being at the Indaba offers a crucial opportunity to promote lesser-known destinations.
Eastern Cape, being the second biggest province in South Africa, has got a lot to offer. So from just landscape, cultural diversity, from the Rocky Mountains down to beautiful coastline, nature and the wildlife. So it truly has a lot to offer in terms of wildlife experience. We've got Ado, the village and cultural experience.
Despite its natural reaches, the Eastern Cape province faces notable hurdles in attracting consistent tourism. Kholoma says infrastructure and perception challenges continue to hinder growth.
Challenges that we face as tour operators, Eastern Cape is not necessarily a popular place. People, they hear about it and then they don't have, for some reason, don't have any so enthusiasm or energy to visit the Eastern Cape. So that's why these trade shows are important for us to try and push. And also the infrastructure becomes a challenge. We're battling with access roads. So it's not necessary, especially on the Wild Coast side of things, to access some of the hotels that people might like to go and stay.
In the Gauteng province, Albertine Mkosi from Highburn Lodge is equally passionate about highlighting hidden gems in her region. Her lodge is based in the Cradle of Humankind, a World Heritage Site she believes offers a rare blend of tranquility and luxury.
We are in an area, because of Magaliesburg, it's a natural environment, it's very rural environment. So you actually leave the Gauteng in terms of the Johannesburg, the center. You now come into an area where you just want relaxation, greenery, and your aim is either let me go and live the nature, let me hike, or let me just have a beautiful spa treatment and relaxation. So it's the mixture of true natural and yet luxurious environment.
For Mkosi, this was her second time exhibiting in Indaba. She says the platform is vital for visibility and strategic growth.
You can have the most beautiful establishment somewhere in the rural area of Magalies, and yet no one knows about it. So the beauty of being here is to make sure that there's collaboration, there's networking between different business sectors, from the tour operator to the international market, the buyers. So my suppliers will come from here, my customers will come from here. So my branding is now a key item that is spread out.
While some exhibitors had teething issues with late stand setups, Holoma says his business managed to close key meetings and is hopeful for more engagement post the event.
We had a little bit of challenges to start the show. As you can see, a lot of stands are not finished, so it's been a struggle for people to just be able to find their meetings because of that. Across the whole show, there are some stands that are not finished. Other than that, we managed to secure some couple of meetings with very interesting outcomes and interesting deals.
Reporting for Channel Africa, I am Lebogang Mabange.
All right, we now go to West Africa. This is where we find that Nigeria's Trans-Niger pipeline, a major oil artery transporting crude from onshore oil fields to the Boni export terminal, burst and spilled oil into the local Bidere community in Ogoni land. This is the second incident affecting the Trans-Niger pipeline in 2 months. Now, for more on this incident, we are now joined on the line by from Nigeria by Dr. Nemo Basi, Executive Director, Environmental Rights Group, Health of Mother Earth Foundation. Dr. Basi, thank you so much for making the time. Welcome to Channel Africa.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Basi, can you hear me?
I heard you. Thank you so much for
all right. It seems as though
having me on the program.
Dr. Basi is still mute. I can tell you now that this issue is not happening for the first time, and it seems as though there's something the authorities are not doing right. They're not getting it right, because for us to basically get more investment in the continent, we have to get things right. For an example, issues of oil spillage, particularly in Nigeria, so it does call for concern. And I'm keen to hear what is it that the authorities are doing. Let's see whether we have Dr. Basi on the line. Dr. Basi, thank you so much for joining us on Channel Africa. Good evening.
Thank you so much, and good evening too. Thank you so much for having me.
Take that line back to the producer. It does seem as though we're struggling to hear him in the studio. You're listening to Africa World Hour with Innocent Simosa in for Tsepiso. We're going to take a quick commercial breather. We'll be right back after this.
Channel Africa, born to tell Africa's incredible stories.
A nossa história contada por nós.
Happy birthday to us.
Happy birthday to you.
Listen on SABC Plus, DSTV Audio Bouquet 802, and Satellite Channel PAS 10.
All right, welcome back. It has just gone 21:37 Central African Time. You're listening to Late Night Radio. This is Africa World Hour. We're coming to you live from our studios in Johannesburg, South Africa. I know now that we have Dr. Basi on the line. Dr. Basi, welcome to Channel Africa, and thank you so much for making the time to talk to us.
Thank you so much. Apologies for the network difficulties.
Yeah, it's understandable where in Africa sometimes this network is a challenge. But let's then talk about the issue of the Ogoni land, where we find that there's a bust of the oil bust there. Do we know what caused the oil pipeline to bust? Is there information around that?
Yes, there is information around it. The pipelines crisscrossing much of the Niger Delta in Nigeria are very old pipelines. These pipelines have a lifespan. They ought to be replaced after maybe 25 years or thereabout. But some of these have been in place for decades. And so they are used under heavy pressure, pushing the crude oil to them. And they could burst at any time due to corrosion and due to bad management. But for this particular pipeline that erupted, the joint investigation visit that was made by relevant authorities, including the oil company in charge, showed that they have it's an equipment failure. That's what caused the problem.
Yeah, then tell us more about the area where this incident happened. We do know that is in Ongoniland, but how much oil has spilled into the local Bidira community, and what do we know about this area, Dr. Basi?
Well, the Ogoni is a territory in the Niger Delta, and it's very famous for the impunity of oil companies and various governments in Nigeria towards the environment and the people. For example, in the early 1990s, in 1995 to be precise, Ken Saro-Wiwa, a very renowned environmentalist, writer, and businessman, was executed alongside 8 other Ogoni leaders on trump-up charges by the Nigerian government at that time. Now, why did they have all this crisis there? It was because right from the late 50s, Shell Oil Company have been drilling and extracting oil from Ogoniland. In 2011, the United Nations Environment Program issued a report of an assessment of the situation in Ogoniland and the environment. And the report showed that much of the land and the waters in Ogoni had been contaminated. In fact, some places, pollution had gone as deep as 5 meters. And by the time remediation efforts began some years later, it had gone as deep as 10 meters. Almost all the water bodies are contaminated. And in some places, the water bodies, even the groundwater, has benzene, a known carcinogen, 900 times above safe standards. So it's a place that is deeply polluted. Because of this government and because of the pressures of the people and the assessment by UNEP, government set up a body, hydrocarbons pollution remediation project, to try to clean up the place. And it was expected that the cleanup would be completed in 5 years, and the restoration would take about 30 years to be completed. As we speak, the cleanup is still struggling. Of course, restoration will take a long time to come, but we're still having pollution in the area. I should also mention that the people resisted oil extraction, and in 1993, they expelled the oil companies from operating in Ogoniland. But this pipeline that leaks, the pipeline crosses through Ogoni territory to get to the export terminal.
Yeah. Dr. Basi, part of the work that you do, you deal with environmental rights group and Health of Mother Earth Foundation. And I'm keen to know, how will this latest oil spill affect local communities and the environment, given the issues that has to do with health?
Yes, I was on the location yesterday, and the moments I spent there was really difficult for me. I couldn't imagine how community people have to live with that kind of pollution continuously. The atmosphere was charged with fumes from the crude oil that had leaked that formed almost like a lake in the place. And, and people were sitting around. This was very difficult. One of my colleagues who went with me felt sick from just being exposed to that environment. And what we've seen there is that because of this pollution was right in the middle of communities, some people had the crude oil flowing into their backyards, into their buildings. And so people living close by can't even light a fire. They can't cook anything because they will risk explosion in the area. So the oil spills affect the water bodies, affect the land, it affects the air, it affects everything. It's a horrible situation to be there when this happens.
And this boils down to the authorities and how they're handling these issues. And this incident it's not the first time that it's happening not only in Ongoniland, but in Nigeria. It happens often. And are you confident that the authorities will do a proper cleanup job in that area? And What is it that they're doing to really mitigate against such issues moving forward?
This is a very complex situation, and it's been our struggle for years now, and we are not about to give up. Communities are up and ready, monitoring the environment, pressuring the system, demanding accountability and responsibility. But government have been very sluggish about responding to the real needs of the people and the environment. And I think one of the main reasons is that Nigeria is a mono-product economy in terms of what brings in the foreign exchange is mostly from petroleum products, from crude oil and gas. And the oil companies operate the oil extraction activities in joint partnership with government entities. So we have a situation where the producer is also the regulator. And because the government and the corporations are focused mostly on petrodollars, there's very lax regime of regulation and oversight. And so it's a long ride uphill to get things be done adequately. And this is why communities often have to resort to litigation. And litigation in the Nigerian courts are not very helpful because corporations and the government can ignore what the court rules. And so litigation is being taken to the home countries of these corporations who are creating havoc in the Niger Delta. But of recent, government has agreed to these old oil companies, Shell, Chevron, ExxonMobil, Ajib, Eni, and the rest, to sell off their onshore assets to Nigerian companies. And this really is a big problem. If we can't hold those who have created historical pollution in the area accountable for the pollution, it's going to be a very difficult task for us to get the area cleaned up. At the conference we had last Monday called the Niger Delta Alternatives Convergence, with one of the outcomes was that there must be an environmental audit of the entire Niger Delta, and then there must be an environmental restoration fund with which process can begin to clean up the region.
And just as a parting shot, Dr. Bassey, in that conference, was government represented? And did you get a sense of commitment from government in dealing with this issue?
Well, what I would say about the convergence is that this was the fourth time we're having this convergence, and we had politicians, we had academics, we had activists, we had community people, we had traditional leaders across spectrum of people from different walks of life, and now we did not have a kind of political leadership in this conference that will be able to make decisions. But then that doesn't really mean that they did not get the message, because when we held this conference, the government had just issued a report entitled Environmental Genocide, the human and environmental cost of oil and gas in that particular state. So, and we've been engaging with government to do something. They always say they're going to do something, but doing the thing is a problem. It's something that we're not seeing happening in any consistent or reasonable speed and manner.
Dr. Bassey, because of time, we're going to have to leave it there. I mean, I said earlier that it's important that we get it right, because if you want to attract investment into the country, you need to get such things right so that it really does attract investment. But, sir, thank you so much for making the time. We really appreciate you coming onto the show.
Thank you very much. There's a lot to be said, but maybe another time.
Thank you. Thank you. That was Dr. Nimno Bassey, Executive Director, Environmental Rights Group, and also Health of Mother Earth Foundation.
When the sun goes down, we don't stop the talk. Channel Africa, the best nighttime radio. Get Channel Africa on DSTV Audio Bouquet. Channel 802. Channel Africa, we think differently. The African perspective.
The 100 most reputable Africans were honored last night at an event held in Johannesburg, South Africa. The celebration spotlighted the continent's excellence, innovation, and resilience, recognizing individuals whose leadership, vision, and services continue to shape Africa's future. The gathering brought together community leaders, government officials, and representatives from various sectors to acknowledge those trailblazers and their outstanding contributions. Now, for more on this, we're joined on the line by Dr. Sindiswa Mzamo, President of Circle of Global Business Women. She was part of that event. Dr. Mzamo, thank you so much for making the time to talk to us.
Thank you very much. I'm also excited. Good evening, the listeners to the Africa Channel.
Yeah.
And also, I'm one of the awardees, so I'm very excited and also building the Africa that we want through celebrating, African intelligentsia, African skills, but also being patriotic about who we are as Africans.
Yeah.
And what I like about the awards, they were championed by a Pan-Africanist who's actually based in New York, who actually took a vision to say, I want to connect with my brothers and sisters in Africa. And how do we make sure that there is top 100 men and women of excellency in Africa are awarded so that they can actually run with the baton and hand it over to other people that can actually assist in building the Africa that we want.
Indeed.
But what I like about the vision, it's about excellency, it's about integrity, it's about long-lasting impact. And when you're talking about excellence and integrity, you've got to have to be authentic, my brother, so that you'll be able to build. And when you're not authentic, everything that you're building on earth.
Yeah. Indeed, congratulations on this remarkable event once again. And I'm keen to know, what does this recognition really mean for the continent? Is it just, medals and celebration? But what does it mean? Does it hold water in terms of, inspiring other Africans to do better?
Definitely. It is really inspiring. If you look at the people that were actually awarded, Dr. Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka, the former Vice Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa, and also the Executive Director of the UN Women in New York in United Nations. You had Kebe as well. The Nigerian King, His Excellency, was also awarded, who is now having a meeting with His Majesty King Misuzulu in Durban. And also what the awards are saying, they are saying you've got to have to be reputable as an African to build and stand and create that, path of actually building the Africa that we want. Because if you don't have integrity, my brother, no one is not going to listen to you. One thing that I've learned in my journey, in Africa, there's always the saying that says domestic investors attract international investors. One, why I'm saying that, the enabling environment of an investment climate in a member state is actually championed by the people that are running those institutions. Therefore, they have to be repeatable. Therefore, they have to have integrity. Therefore, they have to have a character of receiving these investors.
Yeah. And
it holds water for me, because what it does now, it puts pressure for a next vice president at the Circle of Global Business Women to say, oh, Dr. Cindy's got this award. In fact, our vice president at the Circle of Global Business Women, she is Professor Amani El-Sharir, who is the Pan-African University Vice President at the African Union. She is so inspired. She called me this morning to say, President, I'm the next one. I love this, because we gotta have to actually award people to inspire them to do more. Because if you look at the people that have been inspired, that have been awarded, it's people that are actually game changers. It's people that are leading a purpose, a higher purpose. It's people that are changing lives in their communities, in their member states.
And part of the things that former President Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka spoke about yesterday was the importance of women in our society. And as the president of the Circle of Global Business Women, how are you ensuring that women across the continent are recognized and empowered in leadership and entrepreneurship? Because it's often said that women have to work twice as hard to get into certain position. How are you empowering them as an organization?
Thank you very much, my brother, for asking that question. The Circle of Global Businesswomen has the president in member states. Like we've got a Circle of Global Businesswomen president in Lesotho, Circle of Global Businesswomen president in Botswana, Circle of Global Businesswomen president in Mozambique. So we don't reinvent the wheel. What we do is we partner with women formations in those member states. And then our three pillars that we're driving as the Circle of Global Businesswomen in Africa, working with the African Union, we want to actually look at innovation, because innovation is very important. Innovation speaks to disruption and also leadership. So we're coming up with programs. For example, we're now engaging UNISA. UNISA is going to actually come up with a women leadership course. I love that. Because if you don't know what you're doing as a leader or in your company, or you don't have the skill to take your company forward, you're not going to succeed in the continent. And also creating the enabling environment, because I've seen it with South African women that have never been into the continent. So we need to actually give them that exposure as well in terms of international relations, short courses, how do they engage, etiquette, protocol, cultural issues, because you've got to have to understand somebody when you want to do business. So there are cross-pollination programs when it comes to exchange. Women of South Africa going to Lesotho, coming up with exchange programs where we even host events in Lesotho but bring South African women in Lesotho. But those events, they are actually looking at building one another, peer-to-peer development. But also we've got the leadership development like the Institute of Directors, but it's more of a crash course where UNISA will actually guide us and give us that, tool to actually drive it, and then invite women to come and participate in a leadership development course, whether it's innovation or even empowerment. So this is very critical for us, because you've asked a very important question. We can't expect people to move forward if they're not empowered, if they don't understand their role in leadership, if they really don't understand what is innovation, because innovation is the future. So we've got to have to empower them to take the rightful position, to be present, to be bold. It's not about going out there and looking for contracts, but it's about who you are. So that now the contracts come to you. You don't even have to phone people. You've got to have to work hard as women so much that you no longer go out there and say, I'm looking for a tender. People must actually come to you because of your reputable contracts that they've given you, so that now you've got a relationship with that company that is your client.
And just as a parting shot, and it seems as though integrity was at the center of this one, and I would imagine that building onto this one next year, perhaps we'll have, we'll build on additional future that, will build a better Africa. But finally, what message would you like to leave with young Africans who aspire to be among the continent's most reputable in the future?
Wow. Integrity is everything. You must do, your work without anybody seeing you. That's what integrity is all about. And if you practice it on a daily basis, if you are disciplined, if you always do the same thing every day, you'll be successful. But above all, as you know that Africa constitutes about 70% of young people. And now I want to say to young people in the continent, what does your future look like? And where do you want to see yourself? And I want to challenge young people in the continent to say, education is power. Education is key. But we need to take a step back, my brother, and look at the curriculum in member states. Does the curriculum itself fit for the young people that we want to see in the continent? I like what Lesotho is doing at the moment. The Minister of Higher Education in Lesotho is technically advanced because he's an international diplomat, and he studied in Europe. So they are coming up with this program of actually looking at the curriculum in institutions of higher learning so that it speaks to the jobs that are needed in the future. So this is what we need to do as well in the continent, where we look at institutions of higher learning so that we actually educate a skilled young people, but also to say the future is not tomorrow for young people. The future is now. So they must actually act as they are actually leaders of tomorrow in their project, in what they are doing, and they will be successful in those things that they are doing. But what is important is a dream. It's about taking an action. They must take an action in that dream that they have, as from today, as from this hour. I tell you, they will be actually be successful. I mean, I have a testimony with the second. It was a dream, but today we're in 130 countries globally. I acted on it.
Because of time, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much, Dr. Sindiswa Mzamo. We really appreciate you making the time.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And thank you so much to the listeners of Channel Africa at the SABC. And thank you for the partnership. And God bless you and have a lovely evening.
All right. That brings us to 21:59 Central African time. And of course, Hotline is coming up with Sheila Ndikumana. Sheila, a very good evening to you, colleague. What can we expect?
Hello, Mr. Innocent. So this evening, very easy, very relaxed. We are tackling heart matters, right? Issues of the heart in relationship. So people are sending us their letter on a feature called Upendo Letters. Then we have a celebrity guest attend to those issues. You know, give us some wise words of counsel. So that's in the first hour. Then we get into a mix. And this one is dubbed Hot 6 Hot Songs by Kondwani Nyamasauka. He is our Malawian correspondent, but he's also DJ K vibes. And so he tells us what's trending across the continent. And that's what you can expect outside banter.
So the relationship is more like therapy.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Okay, there you have it. That's all the time we have for Africa World Hour with myself, Edison Simos. I was in, of course, for Tsepi. She's back with you next week. Happy Friday from myself and the team behind the scenes. It's goodbye and God bless.
Hotlines bring you fresh perspectives about love after dark. Sheila Ndikumana.
Yeah. Oh.
More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa, partner with Channel Africa, because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa, partner with Channel Africa, because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa